completely tear the engine apart and rebuild it in about 30 minutes, burn about 15 gallons of fuel on a single run, which is only about 3.7 seconds. It's the fastest accelerating vehicle on land, and they're badass.
These are 10, 12,000 horsepower cars. When we launch, it's about 5 Gs. When we hit our parachutes down at the top end, it's negative Gs.
People in the stands think, oh, you're just going straight. If you're standing in the back of these cars, it's not just going straight. It's driving all over the place, and it's a struggle, and they're beasts.
NHRA stands for National Hot Rod Association. There's a number of different categories. In the funny car category, we go 0 to 1,000 feet in under 4 seconds at over 330 miles an hour.
Side-by-side racing, 330 miles per hour, 10,000 horsepower, less than 4 seconds. There's nothing like it.
The big difference between a funny car and top fuel is obviously the chassis. We're heavier. We have to move more air just because of the body that goes over the car. Driveline, engine components are basically the same thing. It's the application's a little bit different.
Actually, I've had the opportunity to drive both a top fuel car and a funny car. I got licensed in a funny car last season, and they are, I'll tell you, two different animals. I mean, in a funny car, the wheelbase is so much shorter, so you're steering the thing like no other all the way down the racetrack just to keep it straight in the groove, whereas in a top fuel dragster, you don't have to do that as much. Also, with a funny car, the engine is right in front of you, so when it blows up, that explosion is in your lap, which is why I like a top fuel car. It happens behind me, and I don't know how bad it is until the end of a run. When I was a kid, top fuel was always the king of the sport, and I remember that since I was a little kid, just because they are faster, they're quicker, and that's why I love driving them.
The biggest difference is the ET. When these cars go 0 to 1,000 feet, our funny cars go over 330 miles an hour. The ET is a little bit quicker in the top fuel cars versus the funny cars, but I think we've got them on speed still, so that's kind of cool.
We use nitromethane, which it's one of the only race cars that uses it on the planet. If you stand behind the thing while it's running, the fumes will make you cry, they'll make you cough, choke. It's really incredible what these things do.
To explain nitromethane is a little bit difficult. It's the fuel we burn. It's a very controlled fuel. It's a very dangerous fuel. That's what makes a lot of power. It's controlled by Homeland Security. Sensitive, when these cars warm up in the pits, fans love getting the sensory of it, and the breeze. It makes your eyes tear, your nose start flowing juices, and you can't hardly see. It's just unreal. If you get too much of it, you won't be able to breathe.
Yeah, we put on gas masks to make sure we can breathe and see. It basically takes your breath away and makes your eyes water. So to be able to see everything that we're doing in the warm-up and make sure we're not missing anything, we wear our gas masks.
When the cars come back after a run, they pull into the pit. First thing we do is disassemble the car. It's disassembled within 3 minutes. Supercharged manifold, cylinder heads, pistons, clutch, driveline. That's all done within the first 3 minutes of coming back to the pit.
Basically, we go over every part. We disassemble the engine, go through the short block, look at all the rod bearings, all the main bearings. Supercharger gets gone through. Basically, the rotors come out, strips, put back in. The heads get taken off, serviced. All the seats and everything looked at. Clutch comes out, new clutch pack goes in.
It depends on the crew, how long they've been together and how well they gel, but the good guys, they can do it in 30 minutes. We're pulling the wires to start the thing back up.
Rebuilding the car in 30 minutes. I mean, we start the car up typically in 29 minutes after it comes back in the pit, after a full service. Tearing the engine completely apart, clutches out, rebuild it, put new parts on, start it up in 30 minutes.
You know, it's crazy. They work extremely hard. They're covered in dirt, grease, head to toe, oil. I mean, they're covered in between every single round, and they put their blood, sweat, and tears in this race car. And we go out there, and there's a lot of pressure, I think, on all of us. There's a lot of pressure on me because I have 4 seconds to do the best job that I can to keep this car straight in the center of that groove, to have a great reaction time, and to make the run worth it, and worth all the work that they've put into it.
It takes a whole team to make that car go down the racetrack, and I always give it up to them. The driver always gets the credit, but it takes everybody involved, and You know, they're the reason that we've won races and won a championship last year, so I give it all up to them.
I can't be running this car, I can't be driving this car without my crew guys and without my crew chiefs. It doesn't run without them, you know. I literally trust these guys with my life.
Whether it's mechanics or the driver, I'm not sure how you would split that. Probably 50-50. I don't know. It's hard to say.
This was a pretty huge moment for the Force family.
Courtney Force getting her first win. Another Force in the winner's circle, and Mom and Dad are happy as well they should be.
I grew up around this sport. Ever since I was a kid, I was out here watching my dad compete in the funny car category. He won a lot of races, broke a lot of records, you know, won multiple championships.
I really am looking at like the funny cars or the dragsters. That's what I got my eye on, but we'll see.
And now I get to be out here competing against him. I mean, that was the dream of mine since I was a kid. I told him, you know, I wanted to grow up and be a funny car driver just like him, and told him he couldn't retire until I could come out here and compete against him.
I used to come out to the racetrack as a kid with my sisters just to watch my dad. That's how we'd hang out with Dad. He'd pack up and go on the road, and we'd follow him to racetracks, and these racetracks kind of became second homes to us. Everyone out here, teams, crew guys, crew chiefs kind of became family to us. So I fell in love with the sport at a young age.
I think my dad was a little surprised that any of his kids had an interest in the sport, but I think he was happy about it. He always said he wanted boys. He ended up with 4 daughters, and 3 of us ended up driving professionally. So I think we surprised him a little bit, but we're a very tight-knit family. I get to compete against my dad in the funny car category. My sister Brittany, she just actually won the Top Fuel Championship last season.
If you would have asked me 15 years ago if I'd be driving a Top Fuel car, there's no way I'd absolutely believe it. I used to think Top Fuel drivers, funny car drivers were insane, so it surprises me that I ended up driving one.
We just have fun with it. We get to travel and see a lot of cool places, but we get to work together as a family, which is the most important thing.
Daughter become the 2017 Top Fuel World Champion.
100 national event Wally belongs to Courtney Force. I'll tell you why, because Brittany Force has too much steam. Courtney Force saves the day for John Force Racing.